Okay, we're the 18th of April as I start recording this video. That's a lunch talk. It's 12:15 approximately, and I have just cooked my meal. And I intended to record because I have not the opportunity to talk with anyone about the topics that I'm interested in, because it requires a culture in a way, and I don't. That's not derogatory, but simply I have a very high culture, which is kind of problematic because I cannot really talk about the topic that I find interesting with people who share the same cultural level, because it requires culture, intelligence, etc., and the same references, etc., and yeah, that's problematic. But I intended to talk briefly. I haven't read this book yet. I have read a few chapters. I've started. I read 30 minutes or 1 hour each day. I read this kind of book, but I wanted to illustrate my document. Hopefully we can see the categories. The useful aspect of this document is that's really the structure of the development of spirit, which is the movement of ideas. So hopefully the quality is good enough to see. I have presented this document over and over. I haven't modified this document for many months now, and it can be greatly improved. But basically, from top to down, that's the logical structure of the human world, one might say, from the natural biological determinations to the more spiritual. So that's the soul, the mind, and the spirit eventually. And what happens predominantly in the Western world, but actually because science is universal in the world at large, but these are specifically Western countries which are structured this way because of the historical context, the demographic changes, etc., and specifically the United States, because this is where there is free speech and therefore all the ideas can express themselves. And yeah, but this is how every Western country is structured, because I know that the French, the Germans, they import American ideas, bad ones, but because the bad ones, they bring about the good as a reaction, the good idea emerge as well. And that's the case for Canada, Australia, wherever there are northwestern whites. This is how it is structured. Yeah. And so I wanted to talk, to praise my own documents, my own work, because I've started reading this book. I will not eat while reading, so I will first eat. But I've basically the utility of this document. It's kind of a work of genius in a way, although I've borrowed a lot of my idea, but it's kind of genius because this is how reality is structured, and how people, how ideas move and develop, and ideas, they are embodied in individuals. So these are not just ideas, they bring about change in human action, and therefore in economics, politics, sociology, demographics, etc., etc. And of course, Mr. Deist, in his book, he adopts a lot of points of view which are present here on the right side. He talks, that's not what he talks about, but basically his strategy is K strategy, namely, that's a determination of anthropology, of biology actually, but it applies to anthropology. That's the hypothesis of Philip Rushton, the Canadian psychologist, that there are humans who have unconsciously or consciously fewer offsprings, but they invest a lot in each to enhance the reproductive fitness. And there are those who do not invest a lot of time, resources, energy, parental care in their offspring, but they produce a lot. These are different strategies, which it's often unconscious, but this is how the biological world is structured. Then, of course, males and females. This is not only the structure of reality, but this is also the structure of the process of acquiring knowledge, namely all the Micto movement, etc. They exist, and it's quantitatively very limited. But the ideas that they develop, about female behavior, female sexuality, etc., when they are true, they are universal. So by becoming conscious of the other, they become conscious of themselves as well. And then, in terms of demographics, there is a very interesting chapter that I've read this morning about the demographic changes, and not the demographic changes, the demographic structure of the US, but actually of Western countries, where there is a significant portion of the population which is getting old, and it has an impact in terms of economics, financing the retirement fund, in terms of sociology, urbanization, gentrification, etc., in terms of culture, because older whites in Western countries, those who are more than 60 years old, or I might say, or 70 years old, they are aging, and they will eventually they will die in a country or a civilization which has changed enormously from the days in which they were born. White people who were born before the 1950s, which means they are older than 70 years old nowadays, they have grown up, and some of them have already died, and some of them are still healthy, and they can still live 10, 20 years, etc., or maybe even more, but they grow old in a civilization, a country, whatever the country, which has changed so much in all regards. Up until the 1960s, here I do not have the specific statistics, but more than 95, sometimes even more, than at least 95% of northwestern countries were anthropologically populated by Europeans. There were already tiny minorities here and there in some countries, but usually sometimes it was more than 95 or more than 98% European. The US, slightly less, because historically there was the presence of the Afro-Americans and a few, the natives, of course, the native Indians, the native Amerindians, and a few Asian communities, but it was more than 85 or more than 85. And over the past 70 years or 60 years, this has gone through a tremendous shift. So the people, those who die of old age or disease, they die or they grow old in a civilization, a culture which has radically changed completely from the days of their youth. Yeah, and yeah. So Mr. Deist talks about this as well, of course. Attractive. Of course, Mr. Deist is very attractive, but here that's not what it means. It means simply that everyone can see by looking at political meetings that usually people in all countries, actually, I mean all countries where there are political parties, in the democratic country, it works for Asia as well. Usually, people on the right wing, they are more attractive physically. It can be empirically noticed. It's not there are people on the right who are ugly, and there are very beautiful people on the left. Usually, the leftist white liberals, they are very beautiful because, especially the women, because they come from good families, with high social status, etc. But it's not just a random. It cannot only be noticed empirically. The reason, here one has to go through the mediation of sociobiology. Usually, people who are more beautiful, there are various ways of interpreting. There are a right-wing and a left-wing way. Usually, people who are more beautiful, it's easier for them in life to succeed. For women, of course, but even for males, because they are more attractive, they will get better jobs. Maybe people will trust them more if they look good, etc. That's one hypothesis which explains why they might have more success, and therefore usually people who are more usually It's not always the case in modernity, but usually people who are more economically successful, they tend to be more on the right. That's why a lot of people in right-wing, in establishment right-wing parties, they are better looking than on the left wing. It's not a matter of moral judgment, not always, but that's how it can be noticed. And another reason is simply because usually here, on the longer term sociobiological perspective, people with higher resources, more intelligence, more ambition, more competence in a way in the ability to gather resources, the males, they can marry more attractive females, and over the course of many generations, the family bloodline, usually that used to be the case. The aristocrat, they developed a specific physiognomy, they looked better. It's not strictly rigorous, but overall, here I take the example of a country like France. Joan of Arc was renowned for having the features, the physiognomy of a peasant girl. Her features were more rough than the features of the aristocracy. It was already known when they start talking about her, and that's just to illustrate that when the classes were distinguished by blood, or the intermarriage was really limited among really the rising bourgeoisie and the nobility or the aristocracy, it brought about over the centuries physiognomic differences. Of course, there are always very beautiful people coming from the people. Precisely here, the people means the lower classes, of course, and there are people who do not look very good and who come from good families, but the overall trend, the statistical tendency is that more beautiful people, they come from higher families in terms of usually resources and intelligence and culture, and those who look less well. But it can change, especially in meritocratic society, it can change very fast over a few generations, or even a rise and fall in the socioeconomic status can happen very fast. But these are the trends. Usually also people on the right, they tend to be more intelligent, so they have usually a better ability to think long term, to take better care of their health, to buy beauty, skin products, to have a healthier lifestyle, etc., etc. It doesn't mean the physical appearance of a person does not say anything about his or her own moral value, but there are trends. So with individuals we cannot judge, but groups, there are trends, and usually attractive people, the more attractive people, they tend to be on the right. There are counterexamples. White leftists, intelligent white leftists, usually they are very good looking, but because they come from a right-wing family and they revolt against their parents, right-wing, here it means bourgeois family, wealthy family, and they rebel against their parents, so they embrace radical left-wing politics. That's the psychology, and yeah. Also, responsibility and active, of course. Patriotism, not really. Jeff Deist is not really, I mean, I'm not talking about him as an individual, but the ideas here, they are not really patriotic, although they are, because he talks about the national liberalism of Mises, and America is a specific country because to be a patriot means to be loyal to a set of ideas, and in this sense, even if he does not identify as such, the libertarians, they do not identify as patriots of any country as such, because precisely they think in terms of local self-organizing communities. His role model is Liechtenstein and Luxembourg, small tiny countries with a prince or a king or whatever, but very rich kingdoms. I'm not sure that these are kingdoms, but princedom, I don't know how you call this, duchies, whatever. Yeah. So in a way, yeah, even though it's not official patriot, it is. IQ, of course, educational, he doesn't mention this, but that it's true as well. More traditional, yes, individualism, liberty, free speech, of course, autonomy, federalism, aristocratic views as opposed to democratic views, free market, libertarian, critique of central banking, etc., etc. So, in a sense, I'm not surprised, but I just explained the utility of a document like this. This is what structures the movement of ideas, and therefore what determines unconsciously foremost the action of people. And this book, he fits almost all the criteria, one might say. And yeah, so I am not, I do not make predictions. It's simply, when you understand the logical ordering, you understand that because here the fundamental would be the demographic changes. I mean, there are other determinations, but this is the most fundamental. The demographic changes, they necessarily dialectically bring about a reaction. And what we see in all Western countries, people are unaware of what drives them and what moves them to change their mindset. It can take many months, many years, sometimes many decades, but this is how life, intellectual life, is structured. Yeah. That's why. Yeah, and also, here that's the simple view. The more complex that not only, yeah, spirit is the movement, which means the people who are the most spiritual, they are those who evolve. I don't know the personal history of Mr. Deist, but someone, that's kind of, in a way, paradoxical. Someone who has held good ideas for his entire life, the good ideas here, they would be kind of on the right. He can be very intelligent, and that's the case of all libertarians, but someone who develops and who acquires those ideas by a process of intellectual development, these people, they really become spiritual. So the quality of ideas, the correct, I'm not talking about political correctness, I'm talking about anthropological, intellectual, spiritual correctness. The people who have the good quality ideas, of course it's good, but what is even better is actually those who acquire these ideas. That's what has happened to, that's what people call the red pill. This is the red pill presented in a more or less rigorous, systematically ordered way. And yeah, so yeah. This is why I might make videos where I illustrate the categories with names or books. Here I intend today to work on other videos, and I have other things to do, but maybe if I have the opportunity, I will just illustrate the movement of ideas to see how the mind of people, with the advent of new means of communication, how it develops and unfolds. Yeah, and I'm not interested in making money, but and I'm not even sure that it would enable to make a lot of money, because precisely I've realized I'm too, in a way, I'm too idealistic. I've thought about this just before. I am autistic, and I tend to project onto others my views and to expect others to have the same views, but actually most people don't. So for instance, yeah, I can be kind of stupid because I'm not interested in money, but even if I were, I would believe that selling books would be a means to make money, but actually no, because good books, precisely, they sell very poorly. There are very few sales for really intelligent books. Usually, the more intelligent, not in terms of content, but in terms of structure, the more intelligent the book, the lower the sales. Yeah, but here, I can nonetheless, if the person who, I don't know when this will be published, maybe a few weeks, because I have already a list of pre-planned publishing a video, but you can this book will sell a lot because it embodies the zeitgeist. It's really intelligent, and all the books, not all of them, but a lot of books that I promote, or the kind of books, not if these are not the singular books, these are the particular set of ideas that they embody. There will be more and more sales eventually, because this is how spirit moves. So yeah, and here There are a certain group of people who are very intelligent, and they do not have a view as structured and as clear as my own, but they know, basically, they are intelligent, and they know that there are a lot of Westerners who ask themselves questions because they kind of see that their civilization is slowly falling apart, so they try to make money by selling them books which either try to reassure them or to give them an explanation, etc. They try to provide a view, and these kind of books, the books are sold by someone like Ben Shapiro in the US, but it's true in other Western countries, or even books like Douglas Murray or Monsieur Zemmour in a country like France. They sell a lot because they explain in a very kind of simple way some of the problems that the West has been suffering from, and it makes a lot of sales because they are politically incorrect, but nonetheless they respect what I think is called an intellectual etiquette. They are respectable while being incorrect. Yeah. And the first time that I understood this, in a way, the movement of spirit, is with another libertarian book by Chase Rachels. 5 years ago, he published a book, White, Right and Libertarian, and I had understood that libertarians would turn, probably some of them, to white identity politics, because libertarianism is, from the perspective of implicitly white libertarian, it's inappropriate because it's universalist, and actually libertarianism, consciously or unconsciously, that's an attempt for a lot of white people to find a way, a respectable way to defend their interest without saying so. Either they are aware of this or they are not, but that's just a way for white people to defend their interest without being accused of or without embracing the excesses of nationalism. There are people who are genuine in a sense, and here I kind of belong with them, because really, when you grow more mature, nationalism, it's kind of stupid, because it's collectivist, and the leader who has to be obeyed by the people who blindly repeat. When you grow more mature, this is really dumb. The strong man, and here in this sense, I understand the criticism of Trump. Trump is worthy of praise for a lot of aspects, but the idea that a strong man, no matter how charismatic, larger than life, and honest in a way, I'm not saying that here I will not meddle into the complexity, but he's much more honest than most of the establishment for many past decades. The idea that a strong man has to emerge to reassure the people, here I will trash talk continental Europe. This is precisely the kind of idea that those poor Europeans of Europe, they believe in. The example of here, I kind of agree with some, not criticism, but some analysis of the left, the intelligent left, that who criticize Trump, who see in Trump the rise of fascism. I kind of agree with this, but because, no, I do not agree with the rest of their analysis, but I understand why they say so, because America is not supposed to be a country where the people become so helpless that they need a strong man. It's a country where the people is supposed to organize itself and to be self-reliant collectively, to be competent collectively, and who it is not supposed to rely on politicians, no matter how well-intentioned or competent they might be. This is only for those primitive Europeans. This is kind of what I think. I mean, historically, yeah, The Anglo-Saxon, I already said this, I don't know in which video, but that's what I think. The Anglo-Saxons, I can be very critical in terms of epistemology about the Anglo-Saxon, but in terms of politics, I prefer, it's not that I prefer the Anglo-Saxon, they are more balanced, more sane than the French, the Germans, the Italians, and all other Western countries. The Anglo-Saxon, they really bring political sanity to the European family. I already said this, but this is true. Yeah. Yeah. This book is great. I have read a few chapters and I will continue to read it 1 hour a day maybe. It's really a great book. I mean, this is a collection of articles, but it's really intelligent and yeah. So these kind of books, they will sell very well. And here I thought I might do this to give business advice. I don't care really about the money, but if you want to make a little bit of money, you can either promote or write these kind of books or translate them. Yeah. I give the structure, and here I have to give credit to Jean Robin, who understands. He made a series of videos a few weeks ago about American books produced in the US, which are translated or not translated in a country like France, and it has helped me a lot. A lot of left-wing books, they are almost consistently translated in French. The US books, they are almost consistently translated in French, except here I see the deception. The openly activist anti-racist books, because a country like France, race is kind of a taboo. So the people who are in control of what is allowed, the party, the publishers, etc., because it's kind of a communist country where information has to be filtered, not legally but through various scheming ways. The really activist, the anti-racist activism, it's kind of a little bit dangerous to import this in continental Europe, because if you bring hostile anti-racism, the people, even though they don't understand the Hegelian dialectics, they unconsciously know that it might bring about a reaction, a racist reaction. Because here the view of continental Europe, I can, for either German, French, and even the English, the view here is a little bit arrogant, not in a good sense. Is those primitive Americans, they are racist. Here in Europe, we are beyond this. We have a culture, etc. That's how arrogant, stupid, wannabe aristocrats think about the US. Like we are better than this, etc., etc. Some, especially French intellectuals, they think like this. Like we progressive Europeans, we have moved beyond, etc. Racism, that's only this primitive American. And there are a lot of books by. And here, the people who think like this, they are not leftists. Usually, they are conservative right-wingers. So for them, they have disdain for America because they associate this with racism. So this is kind of a aristocratic, anti-racist view, but here in the negative sense. Namely, people who with disdain, the disdainful anti-racism, which is it's I must say it's better than negative racism, of course, but it's still disdainful in a sense. Yeah, these are really people who have an inflated ego of the view of their country, either France or Germany. And there are a lot of intellectuals in a country like France who really are disdainful towards the US, but this is the kind of view in a historical perspective that maybe people could have in the 18th century, but in the 21st century, no, because things have changed in terms of balance of power in a way. So yeah, this is the view of the kind of right-wing intellectuals who are resentful because they associate modern decline with Americanism. So that's the revenge of the weak against the strong in terms of economics. So the weak, here that's the right-wing aristocrat intellectual in a way. He takes a moral revenge by proclaiming his superiority. That's very Nietzschean. Yeah. That's how it functions. So yeah, but what I was saying, yeah. Jean Robin, that's intelligent, right-wing, he calls this anti-racism, but that's non-racism. Anti-racism is kind of negative. Non-racism, it's good. So that's the view of Jean Robin. He notices correctly that a lot of left-wing books, except these activist anti-racists, they are being published in France. But all the others, they are being published. But very few on the right are being published. The books by just moderate conservative Americans, free market thinkers, etc., they are very rarely published. So even though there is no legal embargo on intelligent ideas, there is some sort of an implicit, because everything is collectivized in a country like France, so implicitly, it is morally, it's not legally forbidden, but it's morally forbidden to import good ideas. So yeah, if whatever your country, good books, you can draw inspiration, and if you have, I don't know who will watch this when, but if you have the possibility, the financial means, not to make money, that's not the primary purpose, but if you want to promote good ideas, you can bet on the ideas which are kind of the rights of this table board. And yeah, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is precisely this book. It's just an illustration that at least some of my ideas, they are not dumb. Yeah, it's not how do you call this? It's not. I do not make predictions. I can just logically deduce the movement of spirit, at least in its broad tendencies. So yeah. At some moment, people will realize, but someone has been playing us like a damn fiddle. Here, just to illustrate patriotism, Brexit, Trump, the guy, the Democrats in Sweden, which actually means the far right, the Democrats in Sweden, Meloni in Italy, Marine Le Pen, well, she's vaguely patriotic, but actually no, but yeah, vaguely. The AfD, Alternative für Deutschland in Germany, it can be logically deduced that it had to happen, and it will still happen, and it will still spread. The return to patriotism here, the logical reason is simply because the universality that the left, and here he talks, there's a very interesting chapter about universal versus self-determination. The universal that the left promotes is abstract. It's completely disconnected from the roots and the identity of the people, and therefore there is a reaction. But abstract universality is false from a logical standpoint, but just the return to particularity is kind of false as well, because the particular cannot exist without the universal, and reciprocally. The truth is the unity of both, which is the movement, namely real universality. Concrete universality is not the abstract globalism promoted by the left, but the revolt of all the particular countries, civilization, people against this abstract universality, and if it's not if, but because every people in the West at first they regain their identity, they recover their roots because they are in search of stability in a troubled time, so they turn towards a search for roots and for identity and for belonging. And this movement of return is that which brings forth the identity that they were in search for in the first place. So it's a means to here that's kind of really a trick it works for children or for dogs. You make them chase an object. You deprive them of an object, and then they will chase the object. And you can make them move in a way. Maybe usually this kind of video I make no editing, and I do not write in the description. Maybe I will put the song by Taylor Swift, "Shake It Off," or Alexandra Stan, "Make Me Move," Mr. Saxobeat, etc., etc. Because the people, of course, they are being deprived of their identity in the West, but when they are not even aware, but because they are becoming aware that they are being deprived of something, and they go in search unconsciously at first of this thing that they are missing, and what they are missing precisely is the process of reconstructing what they are being deprived of. So that which brings, that which takes away from them their identity in forms of all the determination is precisely that which gives the impulse, the drive to recreate this identity. Yeah. That's kind of a good aspect about negativity. And here I can anticipate, in a way, I might be the person, actually I think I am, the person who loves America the most, more than any American of America, because I miss America, and the Americans, even those who love America, like Ron Paul, Charles Murray, Thomas Sowell, Jeff Deist, etc. I mean, America as an idea. This book, he doesn't talk about American patriotism, but that's a very American book. And because it's American, in the best sense, it's universal. Yeah, so these people, the Americans, they, of course, there are a lot of people who love their country, but they cannot love America as much as I do because they live in America. And I don't. So I kind of miss the object. Yeah. That's the good aspect about negativity. I know how women function because of my personal romantic experience. When you become valuable in the eyes of a woman, you can kind of play with her because she needs you, she loves you, etc. So you can distantiate yourself from her, so just to play with her, to annoy her, but in a funny way, yeah. This is what Kesha says. Your love is my drug, etc., etc. Yeah. You have to create the need and the desire and the expectations, etc., etc. So yeah, to create more value in a way. Yeah, I could say I'm so good. If I were always present, you wouldn't notice how good I am. I have to go on vacation, not literally, but I have to take my distance sometimes in order to create expectations and to be to be missed in a way. So when I come back, I am more appreciated than ever. Yeah. I thought, I mean, I already did many months ago, but Nietzsche somewhere he says his excess of no, he declines, he falls towards you. His excess of happiness was kind of a burden. His excess of light is seeking your darkness. Yeah, Nietzsche writes this poetically. That's German translated into French, into English. Yeah, but yeah. Yeah. 43 minutes. I've been doing my daily routine. I have cleaned my room, but I will continue to do so because every time that I work, I bring about a little bit of disruption. So I will clean my room, and I intend to work on many projects. Yeah, but talking while eating like this, it enables me to appease me in a way because I do not have the opportunity to talk a lot. So yeah. I will stop the video and I will go back to work.